Hello everybody! Today we're jumping straight into the roadmap that has been promised to you guys, and here we are coming with it. We are going in over the different steps that we're going to take before we go live. Obviously this has been something that has been discussed in the community previously, but as it has been requested, here I come with it. So obviously the blockchain itself is deployed, it's live, and next after the blockchain we need to have some infrastructure. The blockchain is just blocks getting validated but without anybody being able to connect to it, and this is where the RPC comes in. For those that have been part of many networks knows that inside of your wallet you have to adjust to the network you want to operate on. Now this requires some infrastructure tools, and these tools very specifically starts with the RPC. It's normally called data seed, but it isn't an RPC. It's a connection point that allows decentralized wallets like MetaMask, for example, to go in and actually connect into the blockchain. So the first step is the RPC. That's also live. We actually have our RPC live. Then obviously there needs to be some public places where people can go in and validate and actually read, because one thing is that now your wallet can read tokens going in, tokens going out. You can connect to the blockchain and you can send RBA or another token from your wallet and over to another wallet. So it goes from A, it goes to B. And this the wallet can now confirm with the data seed or the RPC. It's a very simple and robust infrastructure that connects applications into the blockchain. This has some limitations. For this reason, you have heard me previously speak about RPCs towards specific things that we need, right? But for the core RPC, it's deployed, it's live, it's actually running. We have a very good latency over what goes on other blockchains. So this we're happy with. From here, now we need the Block Explorer. The Block Explorer is also launched for the mainnet, and the Block Explorer allows you to go in and explore the transaction. So you can go in and find a block or find a transaction and see what's going on. You can also go in and look at the contracts that gets deployed, the tokens, so on and so forth. The Block Explorer have several elements to it. So the Block Explorer for you guys is a front end, but there is a lot of data getting processed and everything that gets processed through a back end. The back end is 85-90% done. There is a few smaller elements that we still need to adjust and improve on, but it's live. Obviously, but if you go in and check on it, then currently there's running ads. These ads doesn't belong to us. We'll have to change that front end and back end. So smaller things on the Block Explorer is still needed to get done. Now, this brings us blockchain, RPC, Block Explorer. Now we have like the core backbone of the blockchain. I'm sitting with a little checklist here. This is why my eyes goes back and forth. Normally I don't do scripts, and today I'm also not doing a script, but I am having a little checklist that I've generated to make sure that I don't miss anything major. Now this was how many blockchains was launched. They had these three things and they allowed other people to come in and launch the next application, and one of the core applications for general trading and so on and so forth is obviously the DEX. Now the DEX we are in very good progress with. Obviously you saw we came out with an audit, so we went into security control, and there is a few more elements to it, and this time we are making some major improvements. There's one team allocated towards this, and this is very close to done. Now for the network, for the Roburna token, the Roburna token is a coin. So we have the Roburna coin. Now the Roburna coin works on the network to pay for gas, but to use it for more things, we need to deploy a token, and this we do through a wrapper. And this allows you to input your coins into a wrapper, and it will give you out a token, which is the wrapped RBA. So that's the next step, and this is actually deployed, it's live. So that part of this already works. You can actually go to the DEX now, and then you can exchange Roburna for wrapped Roburna. And this wrapped Roburna is what works many places in the ecosystem itself. So this is very, very functional at this current moment. Obviously, more needs to be done with this. Now, for the core infrastructure, and this comes into many, many things, but that's the RPC, which is the RPC service that allows for data flow. Obviously, very specific data flow. So in this case, it's an all-time high, all-time low, and then it has a lot more specifications. We have spoken a lot about RPC, so I went deeply in through it previously, and if there is a request and demand for it, I'll be happy to do another session showing what this RPC can do. This RPC is currently running in a test mode and needs some stabilization. It consumes and transmits so much information, especially for the utility of running a chart, for example. So one of the utilities for these kind of RPCs can be a chart. It can also be multiple other things. And obviously for the main RPC to stay stable, it needs to have limits. Every data infrastructure needs to have limits, and you normally pay for that access. Now, users obviously don't pay for the access. You use it for wallet transaction and you stay way below the limit. But for other applications, there is very, very specific applications. For example, a chart that needs to call a lot of times to the RPC and communicate with the RPC on a very fluent manner, with making thousands of requests a day. And for that to work, it requires this specific RPC. It has limits and it's a paid service. So this is not something that the public can just connect to. This is something that businesses goes in and connect to. Now, we need it for several reasons. Obviously, one of the very, very security-based reasons, we didn't have it earlier, but one of the security-based reasons is the structure of our bridge requires confirmation of data. As you know, the bridge moves from chain A to chain B, but as they are two different chains, they cannot communicate. So this happens actually outside of the blockchain, this communication, to confirm that what happened here allows the execution here. Let's take an example. Somebody puts in 100 USDC here and wanna take it out here. Now there needs to be some communication, and this implements RPCs. This confirmation could be done through the main RPC, but it would leave a single point of truth. Now, having two RPCs will allow us to go in and reconfirm this data. So let's say we have a very secure audited bridge, which you already know, but let's say that we have a proof tested bridge, this, that, the other, but it only connects to one RPC on, for example, Ethereum, and one RPC on Roburna. Now, it only takes one of a hacker or somebody want to do something fraudulent. It only takes them to go in on one of these RPCs and they can modify the data. So they can actually say the RPC on Roburna getting hacked. That would allow somebody to say, I confirm this input on Roburna, which could be an extraction of, let's say, 10,000 USDC, and send it to Ethereum. Now, if it gets confirmed here, the transaction actually goes through. And then over here, the reconfirmation and everything would be bypassed because there is only one source of truth. So it will keep reconfirmed to the same fraudulent data, right? And then it will get released over here. That would be a very, very bad outcome. Now, it is complicated to hack an RPC, but it's not impossible. It's not actually impossible to hack any data infrastructure. As you also hear, even the biggest gets hacked. So this is what's here now. And most of this is done in a 70 to 90% range or already 100%. And this is something that we really need to go in and embrace. Obviously, I do understand time have went past. We could have done better. And I explained this in depth in a previous video. So with that, we acknowledge that we could have done better, and especially in terms of communication, which is one of the things that we're making up for now. Now, before actually jumping further into the roadmap here is the technical roadmap. We need to go in, as we have promised, the launch and everything, which is going to happen. But sidelined with this, as you have seen, we have onboarded a new member who have already showed his face inside of the community, but we're making a whole strategy for this. So there's going to come strategies towards initiatives and growth. There's going to come strategies towards content, which has been non-existent throughout the history of Roburna. It has been, we do this, we do that, no consistency, which is something that I have had very hard time with. It's not my specialty, and I have gotten some help throughout some experts to design a system, and that's currently in a structure phase. I'll speak more about that in a separate. So, all of these different plans brings its own different roadmap, which will come and present to you also. Right now, you requested the roadmap for the development, and this is what we're coming. So, as I mentioned, on the DEX part, there was some smaller things that we need to get fixed, and then obviously with the RPC finalizing, we can go in and work on the chart. Now, aside from this, then we need to go in and look at the bridge utility. Now, before looking at the bridge utility, we actually need to deploy the pegged USDC and USDT, which we had previously. We need to get that again. They're going to be different contracts this time, and they will be deployed. When we have that, then we can start to go into the bridge. Now, the bridge comes with several elements and several requirements. As you know, this bridge is very, very special bridge. It's a cross-chain bridge with a swap integrated, which will allow you to go from Ethereum with ETH or Ethereum with any approved token, for example, Pepe. So you can take your Pepe from Ethereum, and then you can buy FUSD, FUST, or the Wealth token, which are some of the tokens coming. There is obviously a list of tokens. The content team have been sharing some information, but I'll also do a partner recap and tell a little bit about where they stand. And they will also be mentioned here in this roadmap. So for the bridge, this has a lot of requirements. I think we had a deeper conversation about a subject with a hack detector or a vulnerability detector, if you can call it like that. It's a system that goes in, also work with the two RPCs, but it goes in and it actually studies everything that goes on the blockchain. This is a feature that we put towards any vulnerability that should happen, towards anything in the ecosystem or an investor, to try and get it blocked before it leaves the blockchain. This is a very extensive tool. This was made last year, but that has to be deployed. It's pending the RPC as well, just as the bridge, but this will get deployed in the coming period. And when that gets deployed, working together with the bridge, several operators inside of the bridge, validators inside of the bridge will be ready to actually take the bridge fully live. Now we are to the basics of a network, like the minimum viable. Obviously, this is not what we have promised you guys. So we need to continue and deliver what we have promised. So we go live with an operational system which have specific growth metrics included. So together with what we have promised is obviously the staking needs to go live. That's like obligatory because there's people who have still tokens inside of the staking. We had a significant amount in the 5-year staking. There's rewards. There's a lot of staked amounts. We were up almost crossing 50% of the supply before the first migration happen. So the staking needs to come, and this time it will come with a farm protocol. The farm protocol might not go live on day one, but it will be deployed prior, and a very specific initiative, which we're going to have a long video about, is going to take place. So this is going to come, and this is very, very important. Now we have the next stage here, which is a chart service. A chart service will allow you guys to see the prices and see what goes on here. Obviously, this works directly with the RPC, a pending area for that. And then we have the buy bot. The buy bot is something that we have promised. It's something that was very much requested over several times. And this has been a confirmed promise that we need to go in and fully get that done. So this is one of the core requirements before we do the migration. And then the last thing, which becomes very, very important on the list, is the deep proof of earn ecosystem. The deep proof of earn earn ecosystem obviously is gonna allow the participation. This is one of the reasons why a lot of you guys have joined this in the first place, and that's one of the core things that needs to happen. So this is like our own little roadmap here. Some of the things are gonna be done together with partners. So we have one of our partners that worked on the Bybot. I'm not sure if we will deploy our own or just run with our partners, depending a little bit the internal review of this. We are doing a deeper assessment into this, but the most important is a Bybot is coming and it's running on the RPC, which is currently getting deployed. So these are like the core. Besides this, there is a few side tools which I haven't mentioned, like token locker is very important, not so much for token locking, but for liquidity locking. So when anybody launches a project on Roburna, then they will be able to lock their tokens. And that obviously proves some security towards you guys. So that's one of the important things. Then some roadmap that's gonna extend beyond or might extend beyond the actual holder migration. And this depends a little bit about the progress of the different teams. If some of the teams who are not working on the core infrastructure progress faster, more things will be added to the list. The whole structure is divided out in different structures. So for example, the RPC have been a work between 3 developers previous, but there is also a lot of these utilities that's done singular, right? So for example, the integration and launch of the RPC, which is the current state, that's done by one person. We have several development teams. There's been asked towards how many development teams do we have, and it's not a straightforward answer because there is some tasks that become very small, very simple, pre-developed, everything done and tested and full knowledge about it. So you can say that's handled by one person and that multiplies out, but that same person might also be working on a team task. So is this one team or is there 2 teams, right? I think it would be unfair to go in and structure towards that. I gave the team numbers and everything on our video yesterday, and obviously these are going a little bit up and down because we have specific utilities where, for example, if there is some heavy front-end task, which we don't have at this moment, but should we have a heavy front-end task, it's handled by other people. We also have some juniors where we say, okay, they have skills in Web3, they know how to do Web3 development, but would we allow them to work on a high vulnerability task? Maybe not. Even with an audit company, and audit company is now kind of like our review team, if you can call it like that, even after the initial audit is done. But even with that, we wouldn't allow somebody to do that because obviously it's a matter of trust, it's a matter of experience, and it would be a very high pressure on a specific task like that. When people get pressured, there is a higher chance of making a mistake. So specific tasks are allocated towards very specific knowledge levels and skills, also experience. So as we are expanding the team right now, there will be coming more people in, but they will still not at this moment be allowed to work on very specific tasks of very high vulnerability. So very specific tasks of very high vulnerability will be left to a very small part of our staff, the seniors with high experience, or sometimes even myself in certain cases. So these dependencies, we are almost over now. Now, as I mentioned, we have some partner commitments, and these have been announced previously. They're going to be integrating pipelines. When we get a little bit down the roadmap, then we will allocate already within the next few weeks. We'll be allocating at least one of our developers to help them with the integration. Most of these things are live on other blockchains, so it's going to be a redeployment, and they're going to start even before holder migrations. Some of them will fully finalize, and some of them will be in the progress by the time we actually do the migration. This has been publicly announced. It's part of the roadmap. And then there is a few more things that's going to come also in the coming weeks. We have one specific internal development which was done. It started in the intern program, then it got a few improvements after the intern program. Some of the interns got hired and stayed, as we have already stated publicly. We had the intern program last year. It was very successful, and we're preparing to repeat it again. Obviously, we are hiring very much in Middle East countries. Everybody know the state, right? In the Middle East in general, not always infecting the areas we are operating, but obviously it gives regional unrest down there. And we are currently figuring out when do we decide to make our next roadmap. That's for the content side and the marketing and initiatives, but an execution roadmap, which is one of the most important roadmaps. But that's also, I'm coming out with the whole structure of what we have here. But for the next intern program, that's gonna bridge into the community as well. We actually want you guys to work closer with the blockchain. We understand that many are not developers. There is developers in our community, but many are not developers. And here we are coming up with an initiative that will allow you guys to come with some ideas towards what could be built and get to work with our interns. It's important that we start to get a lot of the structures that we do into the community so you can actually see it. I also understand that people don't see that we are doing a lot. Now, if you actually had access to my Git, then you would see that thousands of lines of codes are produced almost on a daily basis. We are working on a lot of things, but I also truly understand the communication gap and obviously the lack of progress and especially public visible progress. And this is where in the coming week, I'm gonna go in and make another video. That other video will go in very specifically towards the execution of everything. So the execution layers that's gonna be implemented, new people that we are onboarding, new structures that's gonna get onboarded, and how we can bring the organization part closer to the community part so we can actually start to work together and we can be a transparent organization working very closely with you guys. This is something that we have always had a very big desire for, and this is something that requires some coordination. It requires some more hands on deck, specifically more hands on deck with people of specific educational level, and this is something that we're taking specific measures in towards. So I will gonna come with a lot more videos that's gonna explain the next steps moving forward, but this was something that was specifically requested and now I have mapped it up. Obviously things might not have come in the order that it's gonna be integrated, but now we're gonna be making a check sheet and we're gonna show progress to you. Now if this progress is gonna be exactly on a week-to-week basis, I will not promise to that, but I will promise on a regular basis to come in and give an update, and especially to restart the video aspect of my updates to bring me in front of you guys and to communicate with you as often as possible. Obviously, I'm not this active inside of the community right now, but I tell you guys, I am here, I'm active, 100-hour plus a week, sitting on meetings every day, getting structured and trying to make all of these implementations that will allow us to have a smooth mainnet, because obviously one of the desires after we launch the mainnet is for me to be able to move from this office and out to the public and out to businesses physically, which I've also been doing a lot over the last year, but going in more towards this. And actually I had prepared something, so you can see I was spoken about the QR system with the products. Now I'm not sure how clear this becomes. So here we have one of the clothing codes. This is a design that goes in towards one piece. Obviously you can see this doesn't look so beautiful. There has been an issue at the earlier stage, and this was with one of the printing materials that was delivered to us. I've just gotten some new here, so you can see this is the black ink, or it's ribbon in Spanish. I'm actually not sure what the English word is because we're working at Spanish factories, but this is just some printing material that goes into the printer, and obviously we have had a lot more about that subject, and I'm gonna do a whole session about that as well. But this was something that was just delivered. I have this test here, which I'm told is the highest quality. That's why I actually have it on my desk here as I unpack, but this has been shipped from another country because the previous materials that we got was told to us that they were working with textile, but when it got washed a few times, you have just seen the result. It wasn't so nice. You cannot scan it anymore. Obviously there is a product code on these. You could type the product code. So a lot of things is going on behind the scenes, and soon I will come with more videos Soon is the word that I am not allowed to use in any of my communications. But besides that, then I will be making more presentations going into more specifically toward the different roadmaps that's gonna take place in the organization. Execution will start immediately and a lot more information will be shared towards you guys. Thanks for listening in, guys, and see you all soon.